Hi guys, I have been having a very good week. Definitely. I came on, I think, on Tuesday. I had planned to come back at some point. I thought I would be able to come back on Wednesday, but that didn't work out. But now I'm back and it's Saturday night and I have a lot to cover, a lot of ground to cover. And I wanted to talk about a variety of topics. And we're going to cover, definitely the hot topic this week was the Passport Brothers. We'll cover that. And then we'll take a little look at, a whole bunch of other things. Chrisean Rock, Blueface. We're going to take a look at Velma, a weird thing, a weird topic that I want to introduce, with Velma and all that stuff. But we'll cover a whole plethora of topics tonight because I really wanted to come back Wednesday or Thursday, but it's just been an extremely busy week, and I definitely wanted to come with something substantive and that. So the big thing that has been happening this week is the Passport Brothers, the discussion of the Passport Brothers, and it's definitely could hear on both sides. Women are saying the Passport Brothers, they're suspected to be doing, sex trafficking, all of that stuff. The Passport Brothers men are saying no, the women are against us and all of that stuff. But I don't want to focus on that part. What I want to focus on is what I consider to be a bigger issue. And the bigger issue is, and I'm going to take a little time to go through this, is that we have a situation now where it just seems to me like instead of dealing with the issues that people have at home, they want to go abroad to run away from it. And that's something that I really wanted to sit and chat a little bit about. Why are people trying to run away from the mess that's here? And we have to be honest, there is a mess that's here. There's no doubt about it. And it's very alluring to go to Brazil, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Thailand, all that, to run away from it and say, I am going to find myself, a brand new woman that's uncorrupted by modern times, and I'm going to, maintain a household that, somewhere across the world, and now, I am free from this what they call it, this matriarchy or whatever it is. And for most men, the vast majority of men, this will not happen. This whole passport brother thing may be 0.001% of men who can actually maintain something like this. I think a lot of people who latched on to the Passport Brothers, a lot of the manosphere content creators latched on to it because it tied into the whole theme that, it's humbling Black women, because it was supposed to be something that was to make, Black women, who are content, who listen to this content, be, a bit on edge that, these men are going away. But a vast number of men are not going anywhere. I mean, it's it's the very few who can afford it, and of course, if they have the money to do it and go away and find a wife, I mean, I don't fault them. But if they're gonna go there to try to do any form of sex tourism or anything like that, that's frowned upon, because you're going, you know it's something that I really, look into. And I always knew that when the bad actors enter these type of, I wouldn't call it movement or thought process, the bad actors will go in and try to engage in prostitution, all of that stuff. And the fact of the matter is, I do think that the guys who wanted to do this were looking for wives and companions. And to me, as I said, I don't fault them if they're looking for wives or companions. I just don't think that it is sensible, and I think it's horrible that, to say negative things about your own women at home, because it doesn't make any sense. I think that that aspect is where people are tying into non-progressive, non-productive people on YouTube who want to use this as some other way to push forward some form of embarrassment of their counterparts. For me, as I said, I am 100% for people finding love, and I'm 100% against people trying to embarrass or shame another set of people, whether it's men or women, because that's when you turn people against you. And right now, many of these, you know YouTube content creators are now playing victimhood. Now they're claiming racism and all manner of things. And what it is don't, they keep poking the bear. And when they do that, they see what happens. One of the things I want to say about this movement is the biggest problem with this movement that I find is that you have a community at home. You really have a community at home, and you cannot manage your own community. So you are going somewhere else. And when you go somewhere else, you're going to someone else's patriarchy. And those patriarchy, that Brazilian government, that Thai government, that Venezuelan government, that Colombian government, they all have the discretion to either push you out, stop you from going there, because it's not your country. And that's the big thing. I'm originally from Jamaica, and I could never imagine, people saying, "Hey, I'm going to Jamaica to find, women to use or anything like that." Trust me, before long, the Jamaican government will be quickly against it. So, I will always tell people, you have your country, your women, all of that. Work out things with them and stop trying to play. I think a lot of these guys are idiots, because these are your women, women, and I don't even classify it as a race. I'm in Canada. The women in Canada are within my nation. The Canadian women are Canadian women. And if I go back to Jamaica, the Jamaican women are Jamaican women. And I do believe that I have freedom of reign. I can move freely within Canada or Jamaica. So those are women that are accessible to me. And I believe that in the US, and I think you guys have 50 states, why is it that you'll be going somewhere else to find a woman? It just seems to me a bit unnecessary. But someone can explain to me why that would happen. But instead of running away from your own country, your own women, your own people, to go to someone else's country, someone else's patriarchy, you don't even understand the laws in these countries. And to go there to say you're going to set up home, trust me, I just think that it's ill thought out, and it's not something that I think sensible people will go through. You have 50 states, 330 million people. Why would you go somewhere else? It just does not make any sense to me. And I'm interact with I'm married, but I interact with women all the time, through work or different places. They're nice people all over, from different races, different communities, all of that. Something is not right. And I think that this movement that is happening, this Passport Brothers movement, I think as time goes on, we'll see that it's a very tiny group of people who are doing it, but the people who are promoting it have an agenda. And that agenda, I believe, is to drive a further wedge between men and women and stoke the gender war. That's all they're doing. The true people who are looking for love, I don't think anything will stop that. If you're looking for love and you're looking for a wife, I don't think there'll be a problem there. But if you're looking to go to do sex tourism or engage in the prostitution services in different countries, that will end pretty quickly. So that's all I have to say about that one. So moving on from the Passport Brothers stuff, I wanted to go. Actually do have a Twitter page. It's same Pookie Jamal, and I wanted to cover a few things on there. You know, I came across this lovely woman. Her name is Maya. It says Maya Jesus, but I call her Maya Jesus because I don't know. I don't call people Jesus, right? I just use the Spanish word Jesus. Anyhow, so she is an Angolian social media person. She got married to this 50-year-old man. And one of the things was I was just, she's a beautiful woman. She's 24, he's 50. And the guy's in good shape. The guy's in good shape. There's no doubt about it. He's in good shape. She said yes. One of the things I was saying, and as I looked at this this couple, was the age difference is significant, 26 years between them, 50 and 24. And I did actually post on my community tab. I was not surprised. A lot of women came on and some were saying don't waste your youth on him, but quite a few were saying, she's 24, old enough to do that. And one of the things I'll say to anyone, when you see a 24-year-old woman marrying a 50-year-old man, I think it's about financial stability and the fact that he's treating her well. And she does say that. And that's something that I do believe that I will never stop believing that, women, as they get more mature, they're always looking for stability, all financial stability, always looking for someone to treat them well. And that person can be wrapped in several different ways, so, happy for them. But it's an example I want to show to a lot of other men, that getting yourself together, getting yourself stable, treating women well, I mean, that is the way to go. I mean, I've been married for 18 years now, and today I remember doing something with my wife today because we need to shop for something. And I don't normally go shopping, but I didn't want her to go by herself, so I went with her. And after I spent the day with, well, it wasn't the day, it was about an hour and a half. She was really appreciative. Spent time with her, made sure she got what she wanted. And sometimes it's just treating women well and just working hard to take care of them. And with my wife and I, we're partners. It's not a submission and some, head of household submission. It's partners. And these are the modern relationships and how they go. Some people may call me a simp or all of that stuff. But as many men, I think, mature, they'll figure out now that this is the time now to have partners, to partner with women. And you need intelligent women that can run a household, that can raise the children, all of that stuff. And this is what this man probably is providing to this 50-year-old man is providing to this 24-year-old woman. And so I just wanted to cover that just a little bit. Anyhow, so moving on from them, I wanted to talk a little. Well, I don't want to talk a lot about this, but I've been watching the NFC, the playoffs, the NFL playoffs, and I watched the Chiefs earlier, and they beat. They had a very good game against the Jaguars. They actually beat the Jaguars, and this is one of my little memes that I did. What happened is Patrick Mahomes was injured, and the quarterback for the Chiefs, and he really prevailed. I'm really proud of him. He showed a lot of grit, and they beat the Jaguars 27-20. And I was looking at the Eagles. The game is still going on now. And right now, I'm looking over my shoulder. It's 28 Eagles, 7 Giants. So they're definitely. It looks like the Eagles will beat the Giants. But what I was just saying is that Jalen Hurts, the quarterback for the Eagles, he's only paid $1,082,000, and this guy is taking the team to the NFC Championship. Patrick Mahomes is paid close to $50 million a year. This guy just, I think he was like either second or third round pick, so he got a very bad deal. As soon as this contract is over, he'll get his big contract. But this is a big bargain for the Eagles. Wanted to chat a little bit on. I did talk about Patrick Mahomes. These are some of the memes I create, guys. It's just fun. It's Pookie Jamal. It's on Twitter. One of the things I wanted to chat a little bit about was Blueface. I wanted to talk a little bit about Blueface and what's her name, Chrisean Rock. And one of the things is, as I was going through what's happening with both of them, these two guys, Blueface and Chrisean Rock, definitely they are. I would, and I'm very. I want to be very careful what I say about this. They don't seem like fit parents. That's my observation. And the fact that she has said that she is pregnant, I definitely, anyone would be concerned about that, because I don't think that definitely with Blueface or Chrisean Rock, they are ready for having a child. I understand that Blueface already has a child, but these two, I don't know. I'm just like, when I came across them, I was very surprised, because it just seems their relationship seems so toxic. And for these young people, it's he's facing an attempted murder charge. She's I think she is had a charge for several different items, stole his car, all of that stuff, and went across town. And he is now she came out, I think, 2 days ago, and said she is pregnant. He's saying he's not sure he's the father of the child, all of that stuff. And when you come across this, this is just toxic. And sometimes I try to ignore these type of situations, because sometimes it's just to ignore it. But it just seems a little tragic to me. Just imagine a child growing up in this situation. It was just a few days ago she was thrown out of a studio because of the fact that she was drunk. And it's a toxic relationship. I will tell you guys, it's not a relationship that I enjoy seeing, because it just seems toxic. He's saying that this child is not his, and that they're broken up. Then she's posting on Instagram Live today that they're together, hugged up and all of that stuff. Eh, Man, these type of relationships, I don't envy anyone in these, right? I actually don't. So anyhow, moving away from that topic, I wanted to cover I want to cover a little bit on Jordan Peterson. I know it's a weird topic to cover, but I really wanted to chat a little bit about something that I came across. So, I was really kind of this early this week, kind of listening a little bit on Jordan Peterson and his 12 rules for life. And one of the things is, Jordan Peterson came out with 12 rules for life I would say it was a few years ago. And one of the things that really I found interesting about it when he came out with the 12 rules for life was that it really seemed to take on a lot of men, definitely came onto it, and they were impressed with it. I went through the 12 rules of life that he had, and my thing is, I want to be very objective when I go through these things. I'm not a fanboy, but I'm also very respectful that he took time to write this, and I just wanted to do my review on it. So, one of the things he start with, his first thing is, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. And I like this, because one of the things I talk about quite a bit is that, especially in the Black YouTube manosphere, BWE, I noticed that we talk a lot about other folks, but not about ourselves. And one of the things that I find very fascinating, constantly found it fascinating, is that in a mainstream program, let's say that someone has a talk show or something and someone is calling in, the person would say, "Hi, I'm John. I'm a plumber from whatever state," and then they will talk. I notice in Black YouTube, people don't say what they do, and especially men. And that's something that I find very strange. And here's why I find it strange. I find that one of the things that I think creates a big problem for us as Black men is that and I'm not talking in general, I'm talking general in YouTube, or probably among folks who are, I consider, less informed. They try to rank and create a hierarchy based on sexual access to women. So one of the things I find is, if a guy is a player or someone who is known to be with a lot of women, or has probably a beautiful woman or that, he's the head of the hierarchy. If the man is what you call non-select, and he definitely does not attract women, then he's in a lower status. That is I've always wondered about that. The mainstream society does not rank men by their sexual access. The mainstream society ranks men by their ability to provide, their integrity, things like that. And one of the things that I think Jordan Peterson focused a lot on, and has been focusing a lot on, is, are you improving yourself? So one of the things, that's why, comparing yourself to who you were yesterday. And that's a very important thing, I think, for men or women. But my focus is on men, because people will say, why don't you talk about women and their needs for improvement? Listen, that's outside of my scope, right? Women, my belief always is that as men, we need to provide for ourselves first, then one day we can hopefully provide for our family. And I think that that's paramount. And whatever else is going on outside, that's not that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter to me. The important thing to me is, can you provide for yourself? And if you can provide for yourself, and then you can provide for others, then now you can say, I can't find someone to provide for. And I've never heard anyone say that. So, one of the things is, I would say to people, and this is a very important thing, how are you compared to who you were a few years ago? That's a very important thing. And that's where I see Jordan Peterson and some of his rules. I see them as relevant to us as black men. I think it's mainstream, and I think it's relevant to a lot of folks. And I find in the manosphere, there's some folks who actually do focus on this. I do listen to Man of Tomorrow. um, I try to filter through something. Sometimes his tone is not what I want, but the core of his message is productivity and men improving themselves, men becoming, focusing less on a gender war and all that stuff, and focusing on improving themselves. So that's where I would listen to Man of Tomorrow. There are folks like Clarence Jr., a smaller YouTuber. I do go in and I do listen to some of his programs. He tends to be a little more on the religious side, but he focuses a lot on getting away from the gender war, focusing on building the black community, all of that stuff. He does talk about game, and I don't believe in game, because that's one of the things I think is the inhibitors of us as black men. This whole nonsense about game, and the whole thing about setting up a hierarchy of ourselves in terms of sexual access. I think that defeats us immediately, because then what we try to do is promote men into doing non-productive activities rather than focusing on improving themselves. So I don't support game, but I do support us improving the general community. That's something I support. So, as I go through some of the rules of Jordan Peterson, one of them is stand up straight with your shoulders back. You know, if you feel like a loser, the first step is to break the negative cycle by correcting your posture. This stuff, I've heard this as I was growing up, that you should stand up straight, all of that stuff. And I respect that for Jordan Peterson and all that stuff. But this is not one of the more impactful ones I'll look at. I mean, posture is good. Posture is thing. It says treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. you know People take better care of their pets than themselves. I do agree, take better care of yourself, all of that stuff. That's what I said. As I go through his rules, and this is rule number 2, Jordan Peterson's 12 rules for life. As I went through his rules, I noticed that some are, they're soft rules, and some are more impactful, right? And this is not one of those that would be really impactful for me. I do believe, yes, you should take care of yourself and all that stuff. I'm no, but I think this is, you know, as you grow up and as you work with different people, everyone will tell you take care of yourself. Make friends with people who want the best for you. This is important. Um, I in my own life, I have a small family of nuclear family of 4, my wife, my 2 kids, and I have my sisters, I have my in-laws, all of that stuff. Then I have friends outside of that. And one of the things I have found is that I'm not always on the same page with everyone, right? But the one thing is, the folks that are in my family, I really stay close to them, because those are the folks that, when the times are rough, you need to be there for them, you know and hopefully they'll be there for you. But those are the folks I keep close. But friends, I mean, I bounce ideas with them, and we chat about different things, and it improves. But I do believe that, yes, you should have friends who want the best for you. And this goes back to what he said first: compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not someone else today. This is just a growth arc, right? Constantly growing. And I can tell you in my own personal life that this is something that I believe in. Like, one of the things I will always tell people, I back in 2009, no, sorry, it was, sorry, 2007, I came across the first iPhone. Back then I was in Jamaica, and someone who I was working with actually got the first iPhone. And I remember looking at it and thinking, wow. And back where I was working, the senior managers and the directors and that had Blackberries, with the keypads, all that stuff. Then I saw the iPhone. And I remember thinking, it would be a big stretch for us to move from Blackberries to the iPhone. And then, a few years later, I got an iPhone 4. This was in 2010. And what I did notice was The iPhone 4 was better than the original iPhone. And now I think the iPhone is up to iPhone 14. And I always think of it like this. Steve Jobs, one of the beautiful things about him was he had this spirit of constantly improving the product that he has. And I believe with us as people, we should be constantly improving ourselves. So I definitely agree with this rule. I believe that every year we should improve our skills, upskill, learn new skills, all of those things, because to stay in the game, especially in the work world and especially in different things, you have to improve. So this is a very good rule, to compare yourself to who you were yesterday and not to someone else, because focusing on other people doesn't make any sense. I just believe you have to improve yourself. Don't let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. Hmm. Uh, kids are born with kids aren't born with social cultural skills. They must be taught how the world works. Parents who don't set clear boundaries for their young kids end up hurting them in the long run. Well, as a parent, I can say does make some sense. Parenting, I find there are different styles that people can use. But one thing I can say is, I try to, as when the children are younger, I try to be more restrictive. As they get older, I try to allow them to make more decisions, because before you know it, they're 18 and they have to make their own decisions. So I do agree setting those boundaries when you're early and young. But some of folks listen don't actually have children, so it may not even apply. Set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. This is one from Jordan Peterson that's weird, because you can never set your house in perfect order. So I guess he's saying never criticize the world. Well, I don't want to criticize the world. My big thing is, um my big hope is a lot of people will do self-improvement. And I'll always go back to when I was about how old was I? I had to be back then 26. I'll remember back then where I made that conscious decision to improve myself. And uh, that was many, many, many years ago. And I can say that that was the time when I truly made that growth. And I remember studying for my exams, working, having a child coming along soon. That was a very interesting time. And now that my daughter, she's studying for exams, she's doing her math and all of that stuff, and she's going through that studying now. She is going through that time where she has to, we call it buckle down and do her work. What's important to me is I was there and I can tell her, listen, you have to focus. The earlier you get to improving yourself, the better you will be in the future. But definitely, I don't think you can ever set your house in perfect order. So I guess he's saying don't criticize the world, right? And he says pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. This is very good. He says no tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. Sacrifice what you love best so that you can become who you might become instead of who you are. This is very important. I can tell you, in my life, this is something I fight with, doing what is expedient rather than what is meaningful and important. This is very true. It's a struggle. A lot of people will focus, I think, on things that are easy to do, but they won't do the hard work, like upskill. Upskill is a very important thing. You're working as an electrician, and there's somehow you can become a master electrician or something like that. Do some exams, do some course. It will take a lot out of you, but if you invest that time, if you invest, you are committed to it, then you'll see the future. I have a brother-in-law who studied for his exams, didn't pass it the first time, didn't pass the second time, but the third time he did, and he stuck with it, and he's better off for it. And so, yeah, I do believe this. It's sometimes doing the expedient thing is that Jordan Peterson has some decent rules. As I said, I don't just take all of them wholesale, but I wanted to go through them because one of the big reasons why I wanted to go through this was I think in the manosphere, a lot of people are just focused on women and what women are doing. But I think that there's not a lot of introspection on yourself. And I wanted to really spend time on ourselves. and I want to evaluate these. Not as I said, I'm not taking them wholesale, but I also wanted to evaluate them. It says, "Tell the truth, or at least don't lie." Um, all of us are guilty of lying to ourselves and others. If your life is not what it could be, try telling the truth. If you feel weak and rejected and desperate and confused, try telling the truth. Um, yeah, I do believe this because one of the things is, and that's why I try to be very honest on this channel is I'm not perfect and none of us are perfect. But one of the things is, we have to be honest. And sometimes when you're honest with yourself, you help yourself. And a lot of us, if we're not where we want to be, let's be honest about it. We're just not where we want to be. And, this ties back in the other one about criticizing the world. I do believe that we should be honest with ourselves and we should be honest with others. And it helps us to see where and share with them where we need to improve ourselves. So I do agree with rule 8. Rule 9 is from Jordan Peterson is assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't. This is very important. I've listened to so many people on YouTube, so many people. It's crazy. And a lot of them, sometimes I listen and I don't like I don't necessarily like the person that I'm listening to, but I do listen because what I've learned is even people who you don't like may have a kernel of truth, may have a point of view that is useful. And I'm going to tell you about a few, right? So let's go through a few. I listen to Man of Tomorrow, and Man of Tomorrow, he has a YouTube channel and talks about productivity. And I agree with him on maybe 60-70% of what he says. But there's like a 30-40% that I don't agree with. But when he talks about improving yourself, focusing on productivity, encouraging men to really, level up, I agree with that 100%. When he talks about the manosphere being focused on women and keeping men unproductive or just being pure entertainment, I agree with him. When he gets into his he has a gripe with some other content creators. I don't agree with that because for me, I don't think that's productive. But as I said, I take that 60-70% and I like it. I lately I've been watching a bit of Clarence Jr. because he says some really good things about improving the black community, all of that stuff. I don't agree with the whole stuff about game and all of that stuff. As I said, once I hear a man talk about game, that sounds like a man who does not want to improve himself. He's trying to shortcut or short circuit getting sexual access. That's nonsense to me. I think that as a man, your function is to provide for yourself first and then provide for someone else. But I do get kernels of truth. And I do listen to other content creators that I disagree with categorically. I do listen to, and sometimes I cannot get anything from it, but sometimes I do get something from it. And when I do get something from it, it means something, right? So yeah, I do agree. Assume the person that you're listening to might know something you don't. And I've learned that, when you approach the world as in just learning, not just don't approach. I don't approach a world that I know everything. I approach the world that I'm learning, and I find that it helps me. It helps me even the profession that I am doing. I've been doing this profession for since 2007. So I've been doing this profession almost 16 years. Yeah, it's almost 16 years. And I still learn. I still learn while I do it. And that's because I leave my mind open. I find when you close your mind, you actually you're hurting yourself. So John Peterson, he did rule 10, be precise in your speech. We avoid looking deeply into our problem, hoping it will go away by itself, but this only causes the doubts and uncertainty. Specify your destination, admit to what you want, tell those around you who you are, move forward. Yeah, I like this. And one of the things I want to say, what's the purpose of this channel? Um, Here, I'm a middle-aged man, and the truth is, I could be watching Netflix. I could be studying for I could be doing some course or something. I could be doing some work now, all of that stuff. Why am I here? One of the things that why I'm here is I do believe that there are other young men out there who need encouragement. And I want to be there, and hopefully, and the good thing about YouTube, these things can stay on for years. Maybe someone hears this video in 10 years' time or in 3 years' time, but to encourage them to improve themselves, because it happened to me. As I said, when I was 26, I went out and I improved myself. And that was the best thing I did for myself. I took the time, I worked on it. And one thing I can tell you, to gain a skill probably takes 2 to 3 years. To become expert in that skill may take another 10 years, but you have to start somewhere. And the time will pass by very fast. And by the time you become an expert, that's when you're respected among your peers. That's when you'll reach the maximum. Well, not the maximum. You'll grow to, one of the being the top, maybe 75 percentile of what you can earn, 80 percentile of what you can earn. But you have to start, and it doesn't come easy. But you have to start. Even no matter what you're doing, it takes time to become an expert. The next one is Rule 11. It says, "Do not bother children when they're skateboarding. Shelter will not teach children to stand their ground. Parents want kids to do something safer." Peterson proposes this is dangerous because the child will eventually have to face the dangers of the world. Um, this is hard for me as a parent. I can tell you. I do tend to be a helicopter parent, and I do tend to try to protect my children as much as possible. But as my children are getting older, as I said, I have given them more room, because, like, my daughter will be 18 in 2 years, my son in 4 years. So, you have to give them space to grow, because when they turn to 18, you know, they're free to do what they want to do. So I tend to agree with this somewhat, but I have been a helicopter parent. Then next one he says is, "Pet a cat you encounter on the street." This is some of the stuff that Jordan Peterson has that I don't think they're heavy, but you know, even on a bad day, notice and enjoy the little things happening around you. Don't forget to pet a cat. So I think he's just saying enjoy little things. I do enjoy little things, and that's something I really do. And I've always talked to colleagues about this, that I try to reflect a lot on where I was a few years ago. And I learned to enjoy those simple things. And yeah, I do agree with this. Enjoying these simple things does enrich your life. And that. So I went through the 12 rules that Jordan Peterson has. As I said, these 12 rules, some of them are heavy and I think are very applicable. Some of them I think are a little bit on the light side. But one of the things I will say is, getting back to Jordan Peterson, is that one of the reasons why people are so enthralled with Jordan Peterson is there are a lot of young men out there who did not grow up with their father. I was privileged to grow up with my father. And anyone who has grown up with a father knows that you grew up with someone who is not perfect and you see his faults. But one of the things is it gives you an opportunity to say, I don't want to have his faults. I want to improve on them. And I think that that's the best thing, when a son can see his father's faults and then he can, improve himself. Hold on, I see a comment here. You really inspire me as a young black man from the third world. Thank you and keep up the good work. So Shamor Denny, I was from the third world myself. I'm now in Canada. I can tell you this, right? About when? Yeah. So as I said, about how much years ago that was? 2004. So about 19 years ago, I made up my mind. I had a child on the way, and I made up my mind that I was going to improve myself. And I was in Jamaica at the time, and I decided that I was going to work hard, and I'll never forget it. I had to study for 2 years. And one thing I can tell you was, at some point in those 2 years, my wife became pregnant. And I was a young man, and I was going through, the job I had was did not pay well. I had a pregnant wife, and I had to figure out how to advance myself. And I started working very hard. And I studied like I never studied before. I remember going to bed at 3 o'clock at night, waking up at 7, getting to work, feeling tired at work, and struggling. And one thing I can tell you, Shamor, is that during that time, I stretched myself to limits that I never thought that I could stretch myself. And I look back at it now, 19 years later, and I'm thankful that I did it, because now I have been in this field since 2007. So I've been in this field for 16 years, and people respect me for being in the field. And they pay me quite well for being in the field also. And it's because, you know, 19 years ago, I decided that I was going to work hard and build. And, my father used to say this all the time to me: Rome is not built in a day. He always told me that Rome is not built in a day. And it takes a long time to build yourself. But I can tell you, working steadfastly to build yourself is something that you look back at yourself and be happy. And it's not guaranteed. I'll tell anyone, none of this is guaranteed. You could work hard and you could have a heart attack a year later or two. But the thing is, as men, we have to give ourselves the best shot, and we have to give ourselves a chance at success. And one thing I can tell you, when I was in Jamaica, I always asked myself, could I felt like I was in a small fish tank. And I said to myself, could I be big in a big fish tank? And I can tell you, I'm not big in a big fish tank, but I can hold my own. And that was something that I needed to learn for myself. And I can tell anyone, and I'll play this chart back to, I played this chart a few years ago, a few weeks ago. Let me play back this chart, and hopefully, Shamor, if you can see it. I looked at something. Let me remove this. Let me hide the comments so you can see this. I looked at this chart a few weeks ago, and this chart is just showing you what it's showing you the 2013 to 2015 census, and it's showing you what ethnic groups earned the most in the US. And the top earning people, and if you look at it, Indian Americans, Filipino Americans, Taiwanese Americans, Sri Lankan Americans, Japanese Americans, Malaysian Americans, Chinese Americans, Pakistani, and then you get to white Americans. And yeah, I was focusing on the bottom of the chart, which is African Americans, to say, yeah, as Black people, we need to improve ourselves. But if you look at the top of the chart, let's count them: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The 8 set of peoples are newer immigrants to the US. And they're earning more than the native folks, the original native folks. And that's because sometimes, you get in and you have to kind of claw your way up. And these guys will work 2 jobs. These guys will work overtime. These guys will work late in the evenings when you don't even get extra pay for that. I've done that so often. And that's because you want to feed your family. You want to climb the ladder. And you don't have these safeguards. You don't have this safety net. So you really are working hard. So when the boss says, hey, we need to get this done, for Monday morning, sometimes the folks that work on it through the weekend and say, hey, on a Sunday, they send an email and say it's done. Those are the folks that they trust, right? And I would say to anyone that, self-improvement, working hard, all of that stuff, in the end, it does pay off. And that's what I'll encourage anyone, that work hard, improve yourself. And that's why when I hear people in the Black manosphere talk a lot about, what Black women are doing or the system and all that stuff, I will tell people those are the things that you have to unlearn, because trying to play the victim does not help anyone, and it certainly won't help you. And so I always say to people, without a doubt, work hard, try to achieve, and don't try to. And my father always said this: don't initially start to work for money. Work to learn, work to improve. Later on, the money will come, but work hard and work smart. And those are the things that I think that we, as black men, I think that that's the thing that will help us to grow, and we'll achieve a lot of stuff that we want. But focusing on complaining doesn't get us anywhere. Victimhood doesn't get us anything. And that's the one thing I want to make sure that this channel really, really talks about. That playing the victim, being the victim, gets you absolutely nowhere. And especially as men, because no one cares. No one cares when we say the system is against us, all of that stuff. We have to get up each morning. We have to get those skills. We have to try to get that job. We have to do it and that. And as I say, I'll encourage anyone, listen to Man of Tomorrow. He focuses a lot on productivity. And I'm very impressed that you still have people who focus on things like that, because that's what's going to help us. Productivity, improving yourself, all of that stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely I'm there with that. So, guys, I'm going to switch a little bit. As I said, I have not been I haven't posted a live for quite some time. Well, not quite some time. I'll say I haven't posted a live since Tuesday. So I wanted to do one between Tuesday and today, but I didn't get to. So let's go through. So I went through Jordan Peterson. I spent a lot of time on Jordan Peterson. We did the blue face stuff. Quite sad. These two folks are sad. Went through Maya Jesus. Yeah, beautiful woman, 50-year-old man. Still ties in back to what I said. Here's a 50-year-old man in shape, beautiful 24-year-old woman. He has made it in life. And this is the stuff that I talk about, that, once a man makes it in life, you'll never hear him complain there are no good women around. You'll never hear him complain, because once he can provide a life for someone, trust me, he doesn't have any problem attracting a mate, as long as he's going to treat her well. If you treat people like crap, it doesn't matter how rich you are, you will not have anyone. And then, went through Jalen Hurts, went through the whole Kansas City stuff with Patrick Mahomes, who's actually injured. Hopefully he'll make it next week against the Bills. I think the Bills will beat the Bengals, so I'm going to look out for this because I want the Chiefs to win. Wanted to talk a little bit about this one. This is going to be the weirdest topic. This will be my last topic, but it's going to be my weird topic that I'm going to talk about. Velma. So there's some program called Velma, which was released a few weeks ago on HBO Max. Here in Canada, we see it on Crave. I actually went and watched one episode of Velma. I watched it yesterday. And everyone is, the people are slamming it, the show, and saying it's horrible and that. And the big reason why they're slamming the show is because they did some race swapping of the characters. Velma is now Indian American. I think, I can't remember what the guy's name is, but he's supposed to be Scooby's the guy who Shaggy is now a black guy. And a lot of the people who are complaining about it are anti-woke. And these anti-woke folks, hold on one second, let me remove this from here. So these anti-woke folks are, they are saying, Velma is horrible, it's horribly written, all of that stuff. But I watched it, and I can tell you guys it's an okay show. The funny thing is I wouldn't have watched it unless there was so much negative stuff about it. And one of the things I can say right now is the anti-woke folks, the folks on the right, they're actually promoting a lot of these shows now. They promoted Avatar, they promoted Black Panther, and now they're promoting Velma. A lot of times, going online and saying negative things about a show and doing it so vociferously does actually attract people to say, hey, let me watch it for myself. And the funny thing is, when you set an extremely low bar for a show by saying it's horrible, if it is not horrible, the person like, this is not horrible. And I watch it, it's not horrible. I mean, I don't watch all the television, but I just want to see it for myself. I think the right is triggered too easily. And I think that one of the things is they made fun of the left for being triggered, but now they are just triggered over nonsense. And one of the things I can say is I watch this. I don't normally watch stuff watching a cartoon is not for me, and that, but it's not as bad as they say it is. I'm not promoting the show, but I wanted to promote the fact that this outrage, this, you know, unnecessary, chatter about the show is actually promoting it. I understand that HBO Max has renewed it for one more season, and it just shows you guys on the right, being anti woke is actually promoting woke things. And it's strange, it's very strange, but you're actually promoting it to people who would not have watched it in the first place. Now, granted, I would not have gotten Crave to watch Velma. No, I wouldn't. But I had Crave and I actually did just go and watch it. So next time you see these shows that you don't like, my suggestion is to ignore them. Giving it attention, negative or positive attention, you're actually still promoting it. So, guys, I just wanted to provide all of those comments. So I see here another comment from Shimor. I'm currently in university studying finance. I can only hope to become a man as wise as you. So, Shimor, finance, that's what I did. Um, One thing I can say is, I why wisdom comes with age. I wouldn't say I'm wise, but what I would say I'm experienced because I'm in my mid 40s. One thing I can say is when I was back in Jamaica studying and doing all that stuff, is that you get what you put in. And the one thing I can tell anyone is that the folks that I have seen who put their all in it, give it, give it their all, work hard, they're humble, and they learn not to take things too personally, they have done well. And I have friends who are far more successful than I am. And they have done well because they have learned that. They have not taken things personally. And they have figured out how to have a corporate persona. And the funny part is their corporate persona permeated their entire lives. So now even their regular personal dealings, they tend to have this corporate persona. And as you work through university and study finance, and you know I don't know what area you're studying because finance is wide. There's accounting, there's corporate finance. I mean, I have some friends who are in deal acquisition and all of that stuff. They did their CFA and all that stuff. Some people are CPAs, and that there are different avenues in finance and that. But one thing I can say, it's a lot of work. It's I'd always say to someone, after you get through university, get a designation. The university degree by itself, it opens a door, but the designation kind of makes you a professional in whatever you're doing in finance. So whether it's the CFA, the CPA, the ACCA, the CIMA, or whatever it is, do that stuff to that's the part that I consider to be important. And then the next thing I've learned is, after getting all the education, do what do the exact same thing that Steve Jobs says. Stay hungry. Don't become entitled. That's one thing I'll tell you, guys. I tell you, Shamor, don't become entitled. Work hard. Don't grumble. Because in the end, I've learned this over and over, that when people need something done, they actually go to the person that they can trust to get it done. They don't go to the person that looks like them. They don't go to the person that makes them feel warm and fuzzy. They go to the person that they know will get it done and the person that they know they can trust. And once, as a finance professional, I can say to you, focus on being reliable. Being accurate is important, but also being insightful on top of it. It's like they always say, table stakes: accuracy, validity, completeness, all of that. You cannot get away. You have to do that. It has to be accurate, it has to be complete, has to be valid. But the part that's on top of that is being insightful. And I found something, Shamor, that I practice sometimes. I call it hot review, cold review. When I'm doing something, I call it hot review because my mind is on it. I'm working through it, and I am just trying to get it done. But what I've learned is if I complete it, do a hot review of it right after, put it down, come back to it tomorrow, I find when I look at it with a fresh set of eyes that I'm seeing things that I never saw the day before. And when I look at it and go through it, I try to look at what is it saying to me? What are the insights that I'm gathering from it? And that has helped me tremendously. So as life goes on, and as you progress, going through university, as I said, my advice to anyone who's doing finance, get a designation after. And when you start working, don't work for money. That's not important at the first part. Work to get experience. And once you work to get experience and you're doing what you're supposed to do, the money will come. And I've seen it happen with so many different people. The money will come. And be humble. Be humble. That's one thing I'll tell anyone. No matter where you're working, be humble. Because sometimes you end up, pissing off someone who you should not. And just be humble, do what you need to do. And, once you do that, you do a good job, the sky's the limit. And so I encourage, Shamor and others out there who are studying and doing different things that you can actually achieve what you want to achieve. Important part is to just work hard and also being humble. And as I said, if you're doing finance, get a designation. Important, extremely important, get a designation. When you get a designation, you have shown to people that you are professional in the field. Over time, you'll become an expert, wherever you decide to settle in. But get a designation, work hard, and that I believe is the part that us as black men we should be focused on. The next part is treating people well, because as I said, over time you'll learn if you treat people poorly, they'll what you give to the world, it gets back to you. And that's the next part. Treat people well, especially if you are working along with people, you're in charge of people. Treat people well, because if you don't treat people well, they will not be inspired to work with you. And that's why having a negative attitude is like a career killer. It just damages your career. And before I leave, I'll just say to anyone, to build your career, to build a relationship, it takes a long time, takes a lot of years, takes a lot of effort. But you can just make one simple mistake. You can let your temper get away from you, and you can lose a lot. And so that's one of the things of being a man. And as we go through this journey, all of us, as we go through this journey as men, I'll tell all men that being a man is not easy. And I won't talk about women because I don't, a woman's experience is a woman's experience, but being a man is not easy. And one of the things is, I think when you grow up with a father, it benefits you because you actually see a man that you can, if I wouldn't say emulate, but evaluate. And when you're evaluating that man, you're figuring out, do I want to be like this man? And trust me, the good thing is that you get a chance when you get older to improve on, what you saw. Problem is when you don't see anyone, it's hard to have a role model and hard to see them in different scenarios. But as a man, it's difficult. It's not easy. But you wake up every day and you try to do good. That's what I've learned. You try to do good. You try to work hard. You try to do good. And go back to the Jordan Peterson stuff. Don't you can learn from anyone, but you have to listen with an active ear. And that has helped me throughout life. There are people who have taught me things and they didn't know that they taught me something. And that was because they sat and they focused on something for years and they listened to it for years, and they thought it through much more than I did. and I learn from them. I use Excel a lot. I've sat with people and I've seen them do a formula. Like, hold on 1 second, stop. How do you do that? And they went through and they showed me, and that little trick in Excel probably takes 15 minutes off of each model that I probably work on. And those are the things, is because I try to go at it with an open mind. But anyhow, thank you, Shamor, for sharing your story. I really hope that you do well in studying for finance, and I'm happy that that you're pushing yourself forward, and that. And remember, many countries, whether you want to stay in your home country or you want to go somewhere else, people in finance are in high demand everywhere. And as I said, my suggestion: get a designation. You can't go wrong getting an international designation. Only helps you become more proficient and be a professional. So good luck to you and to others, guys, who are listening. I really wanted to spend a little time talking about a few topics, and thank you. Like even Shamor, the people who comment, thank you for inspiring me. Because one of the things is, as I said, I want to personally share my story, share my experience with others, and if it's of help to you, great. And thank you for sharing your story, your life, because it does help me to understand, and it does encourage me also. So guys, I'm gonna end this broadcast. Thank you for listening. Always a pleasure to be around you guys. I think I have a very intelligent um, listenership or viewership to the channel, and I like that, and I want to keep it that way. And to those who are unintelligent, come over and chat with them. The folks over here are very intelligent, and you'll find that a lot of people on the channel, if you look at my posts and go in the comment section, you see a lot of people are thoughtful in their discussion. We don't always agree, but they're thoughtful in their discussion. So guys, have a good rest of your night. I think tomorrow I want to chat a little bit about stocks. um, I've been wanting to do that show for a little while. So tomorrow I think I will do a show on stocks, and that, because I have actually have a portfolio that I've been monitoring. Um, Let me see if I can look at it now, because I haven't looked at it for a while. And guys, it's a fake portfolio. So please don't think that I've made any money, right? It's actually a fake portfolio. But I'm gonna try to see where it is so far. And then I can maybe tomorrow I can show how that fake portfolio is doing. Yeah, because I think the stocks in the fake portfolio are actually performing quite well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, let's take a quick look at it together. Uh hey, can I add to the stream? Uh so let me find that one. Let's look for it. Share screen. Here we go. Yep. So my fake portfolio is up 3.3%. Uh so these are the hold on, unable to load. Oh, here they are. So here's my fake portfolio. And all the fake stuff that I was saying, spy. Let me look at it from portfolio view. How did I do? Oh, my holdings. Let me look at it from this view. So this is the Dow. I'll go through it tomorrow, but as you can see, this was just the stocks that I selected early, about a month ago. I selected them and just said we just track them as they go along. So tomorrow I'll go through it. The portfolio is up 3.3%, but we'll go through what all of these are. And as I said, guys, don't look at the money. That's not real money. That's just a fake portfolio. And that. So tomorrow I'll probably go through this. But thank you guys for spending time with me. And as I said, you guys inspire me every day when you comment and you do that. And hopefully this is of some use to you guys. Thanks, guys.